What's up, ninjas? Brendan here. Welcome back to 7 days of Injective. Today is day 7, final day, and we're going to be learning how to run a node. So we'll be using the Injective core node to connect to the network. And first we'll download the image for the node, I should say, and then we'll run it via Docker. And then finally we'll connect to it using Injective and make some requests of it. All right. So let's talk about Docker. So there's a tool called Docker, which allows you to configure images and you run those images within a container. Now, Docker itself provides this tool, and it invented that category. But then there's also another tool called OrbStack, which is able to run Docker images, and this is very easy to set up and run. I prefer using it myself over the original Docker for this reason, but feel free to use whichever alternative you feel like. Installation instructions for OrbStack will be provided in the description below. Now, the Injective core repo provides its own Docker file, which makes it super easy to run. And there are also other ways to get an Injective node, such as downloading the official binary or compiling from source. If those methods are of interest to you, check the detailed docs in the description below. All right, so now let's open up the setup script. And so what this script here does is to initialize the chain, configure Genesis parameters, import all the test keys, allocate Genesis accounts, sign and collect the Genesis transaction, and then validate the Genesis file. So let's go ahead and run all of that. So now I'm going to go to the terminal and run setup.sh. All right, and what this is doing now is initializing chain, configuring Genesis params, importing test keys, allocating Genesis accounts, signing and collecting the Genesis transaction, and validating the Genesis file. Now, the next thing we're going to do is to edit the config.toml file. So open up this file and search for LADDR, stands for listening address. And when you find it, there you go. Listening address is equal to 127.0.0.1. We're going to want to change that to 0.0.0.0 so that it can be accessed from outside of the local network. Now we save that file and then we should start the node. So copy and paste. So this will start the Injective node, and we can see here that the node is running. Pretty simple blocks. Now we'll open up a new tab, and inside of this tab, we'll set up an alias for Injective, and we will run this command. And for that command, I'm going to go back to set up the SH and copy the feed admin address. And there we go. So what this command actually does is it uses Injective, right, to run a sub-command called query bank balances. So it does that. And then the parameter that it accepts is the ID or the address of the account that we want to whose balance we want to chip, and it basically gets the balances for all of the denoms in it. So in this case, it only has one denom, which is INJ, and the amount is this much, right, which was allocated in the Genesis block. The other thing I want to point out is that the node flag points to the instance that we have running over here. Yeah. So this instance is mapped to as host.docker.internal, and then that port number was port mapped over here. So we are able to access it that way. All right, so the next thing we can do is we can check the node status, right? There we go. We get some output showing that it is indeed running and it is accessible. We can also list all the keys in the keyring. So this command, Injective d keys list, we can see all of these different roles that we configured in the setup script over here, right? All these accounts. For example, user 1, user 2, etc. All right. So at this point, we've initialized a local Injective blockchain, and we have configured it for fast local development. We funded multiple test accounts. We started a node that's producing blocks, and we successfully queried the node from the command line. And it's all done in a local environment that's perfect for testing smart contracts or simulating transactions and, learning how Injective works internally as well. Now, there might be some issues. For example, if the port number, you can't bind to it, etc. Right? So I'll include a link to some troubleshooting instructions in the description below. All right. So before we end, I want to stress that just because we have an Injective node running, it doesn't mean that we actually have a validator node. So those are two different things. So having a node running is one step, and it is a prerequisite to having a validator. So for a node to become a validator, there are several more steps involved, such as setting up staking, connecting to Peggy, which is a bridge. And we won't be doing all of those steps today, but do check out the detailed docs using the link in the description below. Also, recall that this node is not connected to a public network, neither mainnet nor testnet, and instead it is connected to its own local network. So there isn't any point in being a validator anyway. All right, we have just covered the theory plus demos for day 7 on running your own Injective node. And if you haven't gone through the steps yourself yet, be sure to do so now. They will only take a few minutes to complete. Once again, you have options to rewatch this video from the beginning or follow the text instructions in the link tutorial. In the next video, we will have a short quiz with 2 or 3 multiple choice questions. So watch that to self-assess your understanding of this topic. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. But before you go, note that this is a preview edition of the video that's part of the 7 days of Injective course. We're creating the full version of this course with all the bells and whistles, and if you watch this far, I'm sure that you'll be keen on that too. So do sign up using the form by scanning the QR code or clicking on the link in the description of this video. For now, on to the next video.